What if the rarest personality type in the world carried psychological skills so sharp they don't even realize they're using them? Sigma INFJs are already rare, but what makes them mysterious is not what they say, it's what they do. They walk into a room and people sense something different, almost unsettling. In today's video, we'll break down 10 unconscious psychological skills Sigma INFJs use every single day, often without knowing it. By the end, you'll understand why they are seen as both misunderstood outcasts and dangerous masterminds. Let's dive in. Alright, first thing first, strategic emotional detachment. Here's the controversial part. While INFJs are often described as emotional sponges who absorb the feelings of everyone around them, Sigma INFJs carry a hidden psychological skill most people never expect. They can detach their emotions on command. It's like flipping an internal switch. In everyday life, they're known for their empathy, their warmth, and their deep compassion. But when a situation demands clarity, their emotions go silent and what's left is cold, sharp rationality. Think of a crisis situation. The room is on fire, sometimes literally, sometimes metaphorically, and everyone else is panicking, shouting, or breaking down. The Sigma INFJ, however, becomes eerily calm. While others are drowning in fear or chaos, they're already calculating the next move, analyzing risks, and planning a solution. It shocks people because it contradicts the sensitive INFJ stereotype. They can cry with you one moment and the next, cut off those emotions to handle reality with steel-like focus. This emotional detachment isn't cruelty. It's a survival mechanism, a subconscious way of ensuring that feelings don't cloud judgment when stakes are high. And that's what makes it so powerful. The world expects INFJs to always feel too much, but Sigma INFJs prove that they can also shut it down when it matters most. That's what makes them unpredictable. One minute, they're the healer, the counselor, the friend who understands. The next, they're the strategist who sees the bigger picture without being blinded by emotion. This duality unsettles people, but it's also what makes Sigma INFJs so effective in situations where emotional chaos would paralyze everyone else. It's not that they lack feelings. It's that they've mastered the art of stepping outside them when it counts. Next up, detecting manipulation instantly. Sigma INFJs have an uncanny ability to see straight through manipulation. While others may be charmed by smooth talk, fake kindness, or carefully crafted flattery, the Sigma INFJ's intuition cuts right past the performance. They notice the inconsistencies, the tone shifts, the micro-expressions that betray hidden motives. It's like they have an internal alarm system that goes off the second someone tries to play a game with them. Picture this. A co-worker is buttering up the boss while subtly undermining everyone else. Most people might just see confidence or charisma. The Sigma INFJ, however, spots the subtle digs, the insincere compliments, and the hidden agenda behind every word. They might not call it out on the spot, but they've already clocked it. They've stored it away, and that person will never be trusted again. What makes this skill so powerful is that manipulators hate it. They thrive on people being unaware. But with Sigma INFJs, their tricks don't land. And that can feel threatening. It's why manipulators often avoid INFJs once they realize their games don't work. They know that their mask has already been pulled off. This ability isn't about paranoia, it's about pattern recognition. Sigma INFJs are constantly picking up on human behavior, and over time, they've developed a subconscious database of what manipulation looks like. When they see the same signs, they know instantly what's happening. That's why they rarely get played, and why they're so protective of the people they care about. And here's the kicker. Sigma INFJs don't always confront manipulators directly. Sometimes they'll play along just enough to gather more information, but deep down, the decision has already been made. You're not someone they'll ever let close again. It's this quiet strength, the ability to see through the mask and stay 2 steps ahead, that makes them nearly impossible to deceive. Third on the list, shadow integration. Most people deny their darker impulses. They pretend they don't feel envy, anger, or resentment. They bury those emotions and put on a mask of constant positivity. But Sigma INFJs take a different path. They don't run from their shadow. They face it, study it, and integrate it into who they are. This psychological skill makes them more balanced, more self-aware, and far harder to manipulate. Instead of pretending to be flawless, Sigma INFJs acknowledge that they carry darkness within them. They know they're capable of deep anger, they know they can be controlling, and they know they sometimes crave power. By admitting this to themselves, they strip their shadow of its ability to control them in secret. What most people repress, they confront. And in doing so, they turn what could have been a weakness into a source of strength. This is why Sigma INFJs often carry an aura of depth that others can't quite explain. When you talk to them, you sense they've already wrestled with their inner demons. They've faced the sides of themselves that most people are too afraid to even acknowledge. And that makes them grounded. They aren't fooled by fake positivity because they know life and people aren't that simple. The controversial side of this skill is that it makes Sigma INFJs unpredictable. While others are bound by their denial, Sigma INFJs can draw from both light and dark when necessary. They can be the healer, the empathetic guide, but if pushed too far, they can also be the cold strategist who knows how to fight back. Their strength lies in this duality. They are not naive, and they are not blind to their own flaws. By integrating their shadow, Sigma INFJs become whole. They accept every part of themselves, and that makes them unshakable. A person who has already faced their own darkness is almost impossible to control because there's nothing left to exploit. That's the quiet power of shadow integration, a psychological mastery most people never achieve, but Sigma INFJs often practice without even realizing it. And fourthly, walking contradictions that confuse people. Sigma INFJs are the ultimate paradox. They can be warm and empathetic one moment, then detached and calculating the next. They can enjoy social gatherings, laughing and blending in with everyone, yet feel completely drained afterward and retreat into solitude for days. This constant back and forth confuses people because it doesn't fit neatly into any box. But that's exactly the point. Sigma INFJs don't live by other people's labels. What makes this skill so powerful is the psychological effect it has on others. People never quite know which version of the Sigma INFJ they'll encounter. Will it be the compassionate listener who feels like a soulmate, or the cool strategist who seems untouchable? This unpredictability keeps people on edge, curious, and sometimes even intimidated. It's like standing in front of a puzzle you can't solve, and the more you try, the deeper it gets. This contradictory nature isn't fake, it's balance. Sigma INFJs embody extremes without being trapped by them. They can be highly intuitive and emotional, yet switch to pure logic when it's needed. They can crave connection, yet fiercely guard their independence. And because they move between these states with ease, they defy stereotypes and expectations. The controversy here is that some people mistake these contradictions as dishonesty or inconsistency. But the truth is, Sigma INFJs contain multitudes. They're not playing roles. They're embracing the complexity of being human, and while others struggle to reconcile those opposites, Sigma INFJs live comfortably within them. This is their final psychological edge. When people can't label you, they can't control you. By being both one thing and its opposite, Sigma INFJs remain mysterious, untouchable, and endlessly fascinating. They are walking contradictions, and that confusion they create isn't weakness, it's their shield, their power, and their most unsettling gift. Fifthly, adaptive masking. Here's where Sigma INFJs truly confuse people. They have a subconscious ability to adapt like chameleons. They don't do it to deceive or to fake who they are, but to survive, to blend, and to observe without drawing too much attention. This is what psychologists call adaptive masking. When they're with extroverts, they can match that high energy and appear outgoing. When they're with thinkers, they naturally shift into deep intellectual mode. And when they're with quiet souls, they soften, becoming calm and reflective. What's fascinating is that most people don't realize this is happening. They simply feel comfortable around the Sigma INFJ, as if they've found someone who gets them instantly. But what's really happening is mirroring, a powerful psychological skill that builds trust fast and lowers people's defenses. It's like the INFJ is speaking your personal emotional language, making you feel understood without effort. The controversial part is that while others feel deeply connected, the Sigma INFJ is often standing slightly outside the moment. They're analyzing, observing, absorbing the dynamics of the room while wearing just enough of a mask to fit in. They're both present and detached, a mirror and a ghost at the same time. This dual position gives them insights others miss, because they're not fully swept into the crowd, they're watching it. Some people misinterpret this as manipulation, but for Sigma INFJs, it's instinct. They don't wear masks to trick people, they wear them to protect their true depth and to navigate a world that often misunderstands them. The result is a psychological superpower, the ability to slip into any environment unnoticed, gather information, and then quietly influence the outcome. Adaptive masking makes them relatable to everyone, but truly understood by almost no one. Sixthly, future mapping intuition. Ever notice how Sigma INFJs seem to predict outcomes before they even happen? To outsiders, it feels mysterious, almost supernatural, but in reality, it's psychology at work. Their minds are constantly picking up on tiny details, patterns in behavior, subtle choices, and the cause and effect chains most people overlook. Without realizing it, they process these hidden signals and jump several steps ahead, creating a mental map of what's likely to happen next. Picture this. A friend is excited about a new relationship. Everyone around them is celebrating, but the Sigma INFJ quietly observes. They notice the micro behaviors, the contradictions in the partner's words, the subtle red flags no one else sees. They say, "This probably won't end well." The friend laughs it off. Until months later, the breakup happens exactly as predicted. To the outside world, it feels like prophecy. To the INFJ, it was just unconscious pattern recognition playing out in real time. This psychological skill can feel like a blessing and a curse. On one hand, it protects them and the people they care about, helping them avoid mistakes before they happen. On the other, it isolates them, because most people don't want to hear the truth about a future they're not ready to face. Sigma INFJs often carry the burden of knowing outcomes they can't prevent, and that leaves them appearing mysterious, even misunderstood. What makes this so controversial is that their intuition often outperforms logic. They can't always prove why they know something, yet they're usually right. And when the world finally catches up, people are left in awe, wondering how they saw it coming. For Sigma INFJs, this isn't fortune-telling. It's the subconscious art of future mapping, a psychological skill that makes them both trusted guides and unsettling prophets in the eyes of others. Seventhly, weaponized listening. Here's a truth bomb. Most people don't really listen, they're just waiting for their turn to talk. But Sigma INFJs flip the script. They listen so deeply and so attentively that it disarms people completely. Their silence isn't awkward, it's magnetic. And before you realize it, you've said more to them in 1 hour than you have to anyone else in a year. That's not just listening, that's weaponized listening. What makes this skill so powerful is the psychological effect of being heard. When someone feels truly listened to, they lower their guard. Their defenses crumble. Their secrets start spilling out, not because the INFJ asked, but because the silence they hold is like an open invitation. The Sigma INFJ doesn't interrupt, doesn't judge, and doesn't rush. They let the pauses breathe, and in those pauses, people reveal things they never intended to share. It feels safe to talk to them, almost therapeutic. But there's also something unsettling about it, because later you realize you've exposed your rawest thoughts without even knowing why. It's as if the INFJ pulled the truth out of you without lifting a finger. And here's the kicker, they're not consciously trying to manipulate. To them, it's just natural. They want to understand you, they want to connect. But in that process, they gain insights into your inner world that no one else ever sees. This is why people describe conversations with Sigma INFJs as unforgettable. You don't just talk to them, you open up in ways you didn't plan. It's empathy fused with strategy, intentional silence that becomes a psychological tool. That's why weaponized listening is one of the most underestimated but most powerful skills they carry, often without even knowing they're doing it. Eighthly, silent persuasion. Most people think persuasion means raising your voice, debating, or trying to dominate the conversation. But Sigma INFJs play a very different psychological game. They don't push, they don't argue. Instead, they quietly plant ideas into the flow of conversation like seeds. At first, no one notices, but later, those same ideas sprout inside the other person's mind until they genuinely believe it was their own thought all along. That's the secret power of silent persuasion. This is why Sigma INFJs are often underestimated. They rarely chase the spotlight or demand recognition, but behind the scenes, they have a way of subtly shifting the direction of an entire group. Imagine a meeting where everyone is arguing over solutions. The Sigma INFJ doesn't fight for attention. They drop a quiet comment, maybe even just a question. Days later, the group decides on a path that looks surprisingly similar to the INFJ's suggestion without even realizing they were influenced. What makes this skill controversial is that it doesn't feel like persuasion in the traditional sense. There's no pressure, no manipulation, no loud arguments. It's soft power. It works because Sigma INFJs combine deep empathy with their ability to read people, tailoring their words in ways that bypass resistance. People don't feel forced, they feel understood. And when you feel understood, you naturally lean toward the person who made you feel that way. This is why conversations with a Sigma INFJ can be life-changing. They can nudge you into making better choices, shift your perspective, or even help you see truths you were avoiding, all without ever raising their voice. Silent persuasion may not look dramatic, but its effects are long-lasting. Its influence at the deepest, most psychological level. And most Sigma INFJs don't even realize how often they're doing it. Ninthly, reading people like open books. Sigma INFJs are natural human lie detectors. They pick up the micro-expressions you didn't mean to show, the hesitation in your tone, the twitch of your hand. To others it feels like magic, but to the INFJ it's simply instinct. They walk into a room and instantly read the atmosphere, scanning body language, tone, and hidden cues most people overlook. It's almost like their subconscious brain is running a constant analysis of everyone in front of them. Imagine this. You tell a Sigma INFJ, "I'm fine." They look at you once and reply, "No, you're not," and suddenly you feel exposed. That's not guessing, that's subconscious pattern recognition. They've already connected your tone, your facial micro-shifts, and your body posture to a truth you didn't want revealed. And here's the catch. Most Sigma INFJs don't even realize they're doing it. To them, it feels obvious. To everyone else, it feels almost supernatural. This ability can be intimidating. People either admire it, or they feel uncomfortable because they know they can't hide. It's why Sigma INFJs often make others open up quickly, even with secrets they normally guard closely. It's not manipulation. It's empathy combined with razor-sharp perception. They don't seek to expose people, but they can't help uncovering what's beneath the mask. That's why conversations with Sigma INFJs often feel different. People describe it as if the INFJ is seeing through their soul because in a way, they are. This psychological skill is both a blessing and a burden. A blessing because it allows them to connect deeply and spot dishonesty instantly. A burden because once you see behind the curtain, you can never unsee it. And for Sigma INFJs, that's just everyday reality. Last but not least, turning solitude into a weapon. Most people fear being alone. They treat silence like an enemy and solitude like a punishment. But for Sigma INFJs, it's the opposite. Solitude isn't emptiness, it's fuel. It's their secret laboratory, the place where they recharge, sharpen their thoughts, and connect with the deeper layers of themselves that others never reach. Alone time for them isn't wasted time. It's where the real magic happens. While others chase constant validation, endless socializing, or distractions, Sigma INFJs step back into silence. In those quiet hours, they're analyzing past experiences, mapping out future scenarios, and refining their vision of the world. They treat solitude the way a warrior treats training. It's where they hone their psychological weapons. That's why, when they return to social spaces, they come back sharper, wiser, and seemingly ahead of everyone else. This is what makes their alone time so controversial. To outsiders, it can look antisocial or isolating. Friends may even misinterpret it as rejection. But in reality, the Sigma INFJ is not pulling away from people. They're pulling deeper into themselves to come back stronger. It's like disappearing into the shadows only to re-emerge with insights that feel years ahead of their peers. And here's the real secret. Their solitude gives them independence. They don't rely on external noise to define their identity or their worth. They create it from within. That's why Sigma INFJs often seem so grounded and untouchable. While others are drained by silence, they are recharged by it. For them, solitude is not a weakness. It's their sharpest weapon, the silent forge that transforms them into the rarest kind of strategist and thinker the world has ever seen. So do you see yourself in these signs? Or maybe you know someone who does. Sigma INFJs may be rare, but their impact is unforgettable. Drop a comment with the skill that shocked you the most, and don't forget to like and subscribe, because next week we're diving even deeper into the rarest personalities on the planet.